So as you can imagine, most of the videos on my channel focus on using Lightroom's editing tools to add your creative vision to your photos. After all, editing is one of the three pillars where I believe photographers can infuse their unique and personal touches. The other two pillars are composition and sharing, but I think I'll leave those for another video. In fact, leave a comment below if you'd like to learn more about these three pillars that I'm talking about, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out when it goes live. But for this video, I want to explore some of the more overlooked features as it relates to how you can interact with Lightroom Desktop on Mac and Windows. The idea for this video actually came from a conversation I had last week with a colleague on the Lightroom team. We were comparing how we configure Lightroom's user interface, and honestly, we could not have been further apart from each other, which is neither a good thing nor a bad thing. It just illustrates how Lightroom can be tailored to suit many different user preferences. And that's what I want to show you in this video. So let's dive in. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom Desktop on the Mac. This is available for both Mac and Windows. And actually, it's a good opportunity for a quick PSA where all the time I get the question like, why does my Lightroom look different than your Lightroom? Odds are you might be running Lightroom Classic, and that is a different version of Lightroom than what I show in this video, as well as pretty much all the videos on my channel. I focus on the Lightroom Cloud ecosystem of apps. So that's Lightroom for desktop, mobile, and web. There are tons of fantastic YouTubers and educators who focus more on Lightroom Classic. So definitely check them out. But everything I show here will be focused on Lightroom Desktop. So again, I mentioned at the beginning of my video how I had a colleague and we were comparing how we use Lightroom. I'm going to start at the very top with how we organize. So I make kind of no hidden qualms about it. The way that I prefer to organize my photos is it's kind of like a holdover from when I used to use Lightroom Classic, where I organize chronologically. So what I mean by that is at the very top level here, you'll see I have a few different folders and then an album. And so the core folder is this photo library. And if I expand it, you can see I have every photo organized by year. So from 2002 all the way through yesterday. And so that's how I organize. I have the top level is a year. So at the beginning of every year, it's very satisfying. I create a whole new year. And then under that, I create the month. So we just started May a couple of days ago. So I created May. And then yesterday, I went to the nearby wetlands, Wakota to photograph birds. This is one of the photos that I took here. And that is how I organize it. Another thing that is important to bring up is that all of my photos are stored up here in the cloud. You can use local here to browse your local file system, which is totally fine, but I have everything stored in the cloud. And in the cloud, there are two primary kind of organizational methods. There are folders, like I just mentioned, and albums. The key difference is that your photos are always stored in albums. You can't put photos in folders, but you have to put them in albums. Now, albums can be stored within folders, or as you can see here with this to share album, it can be just stored at the top level. Folders can be stored within each other. So that's what I use to kind of create this chronological hierarchy where I have year and then month and then album for the individual shoot. And you can see that pretty much every year has month and then you have different albums under them. So that is basically how I do it. And in terms of file naming, I start with the full date, so year, month, day, and then I give kind of like a shoot detail. So I know that this is what I shot for this particular album. Below that, I have another top level folder called projects. For projects, you'll see here a bunch of subfolders that contain projects that I work on with other companies or with Adobe or just stuff that I'm doing for myself. Under that are videos. So this is where I store the images for the videos on this channel. I like to try to keep things organized here, and it just makes it easier to make sure that I'm not digging around through various folders. All of the images that I need are right where I need them. And then finally, there is this album here called To Share. This is where I have all of my edited photos that either have been shared or are ready to share. It's just kind of like my catch-all. As soon as I finish editing a photo, I put it here, and you might notice, let me click on this folder here. You notice how that album has a kind of border around it. That means that it is a target album. So if you go to any album and you right click on it, you can see there's this option here in the contextual menu to set it as a target album. Basically, what that does is if I am in any single album here, like let's say I have this image here that I've already edited, and I want to add it to this target album with a single keyboard shortcut, all I need to do is press the T key. You'll see the little toast over there that says it was added to the to share album. It's just an easy way to get photos there. And so that's how I organize my photos. Again, this isn't necessarily a preference in Lightroom. It's just kind of a way to illustrate how organization in Lightroom works, especially if you are storing your photos in the cloud. Now, my colleague, he approaches it differently. He does not order things based on chronology, based on year and then month and day. He organizes it based on the subject or the place. So his top level folders will be, say, locations or things or people, because for him, it's often, I think, he knows what he's looking for. And instead of having to think like, oh, did I take this photo of this person or this thing or this place in 2021 or 2018, which is how I have to approach it. And I just have a good general idea of when I took photos. So like I know chronologically when I took most of the photos that I took. It's just something that has been ingrained in me. That's not to say that I don't like his way of organizing his photos. And it's actually something I've been considering, but I'm so invested in this method here. You can see just like, I mean, how far back it goes that I don't know if I can make this switch, to be honest. And again, this works for me. Now, let's say you have that approach where your top level folders and albums are more based on the subject. That doesn't mean that you can't find your photos chronologically. If you expand all photos over here, you'll see this option here by date. This is great because you can expand this here and then you'll see Lightroom automatically filters by date for you. The key difference is that if I go here to 2025 and then May, it has the two shoots, May 1st and May 3rd, but it doesn't have the shoot name. Whereas if I go here to Photo Library and then go to 2025 and then go to May, you'll see May 1st and May 3rd, 91 photos, 84 photos, which match here, 91 and 84. But if I scroll down here, I have the descriptor for the shoot. Whereas here, I have to just kind of click in and see, oh, okay, this is what I shot on May 3rd. Still, I love that we have this here, and it's something that gets easily overlooked because I don't know that many people actually expand this disclosure triangle to see all of these other options. Another really handy view here is recently added, where if you expand this, you can see, again, here are the last two imports into my cloud library. All right, now that we're done with organization, that was kind of, I didn't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but I do get asked that question, like how do I organize? How do I approach my photo organization method? That's the kind of high level gist of it. And I also wanted to kind of compare how my colleague does it. For the rest of this video, I'm going to focus on some preferences. Again, this is stuff we were talking about. I was comparing with my colleague. These are things that I think get overlooked quite often in Lightroom, and it can dramatically change how you interact with Lightroom. So let me show you those right now. So the very first difference between how I use Lightroom and my colleague uses Lightroom is, for me, I like having the left and the right panels always exposed. So let's say I go here to edit this photo. I prefer, for the most part, to have the photo cabinet here on the left exposed and my edit stack on the right. And it's super easy. Like if I'm working on a horizontal photo, like it's super easy for me to manually collapse this panel by pressing the P key. And if I want to see it again, I can expose it by pressing P again, but it does give me more screen real estate so I can see the allure. My colleague, he has it so that you can only ever have the left or the right panel exposed. And you can achieve this here. Let me turn this back on. You can achieve it by going to Preferences over here and then going to the Interface tab. And then there's this option here called Panel Tracks. You can see I have it set to manual, but I'm going to change it to automatic, which is what my colleague does. And you can see that the little tooltip says Panel Tracks open and close automatically. I'm going to click on Done. Now let's go to the grid view. You can see how the edit panel hid itself automatically. I can double click here to open the image in detail view, which is fine. Now, when I'm ready to edit and I press the E key or I click on the edit icon here, notice how the photo drawer automatically hides and the edit drawer is revealed. If I press P again, let's say I want to navigate to a different album, the edit drawer is hidden. So basically you can see if I just press E and P, it automatically shows and hides the panel. And if I'm being honest, I think I'm going to stick with the automatic panel tracking because I can achieve that result of hiding and showing the panels, but it requires a keyboard shortcut, which is kind of a manual intervention. So I'm going to stick with this and see if I like it. I think I will. And I wanted to show that to you because it's one of those things where it gives you the tool or the information that you need based on what you're doing, and it takes everything else out of the way. Now, speaking of the edit stack, the first thing I do when I install Lightroom for the first time is I open up this edit stack here, and then I expand every single panel, every sub panel, and I just go straight down. You see how everything here, point color is expanded here. It's not even just a matter of having like point color expanded like this. I also expand every single sub panel. So I have everything here. And you can see, with the exception of manual noise reduction, because I don't use this anymore, everything else is expanded. And the reason for that is because I've become so used to the edit stack here that I just kind of know, like as I start editing a photo, I'll usually start in light, I'll jump down to color, jump back up to light. Sometimes I'll go down over here to the color calibration panel, and then I'll just work down. It's just muscle memory. Now with my colleague, again, he only wants to see the tool that he needs at the time. And fortunately, there is a way that you can use Lightroom that way. And that is if you click on this ellipsis over here to enable single panel mode. Now, I'm not going to click this yet because there is kind of a non-committal way to use single panel mode. So you can see I have light, color, I have all of the panels expanded. Let's say you want to collapse all of the panels, but you still want everything open in terms of subpanels. If you press and hold on the Command key or the Control key on Windows while clicking on this disclosure triangle, so I'm going to click it once and then I'm going to click it again, you can see that only light is expanded and all of the other panels have been collapsed. Now, unlike single panel mode, I can still reopen all of these panels. And the nice thing is I'll start at the bottom. All of the subpanels that I've expanded remain expanded. So you can see I'll go here, open up optics, detail, effects, and color. And so I'm kind of back at the state that I'm used to. Again, press and hold on Command or Control, click once, click twice, and you've got everything else closed. And again, I can just collapse this and you can see everything is collapsed. I'll go ahead and open everything up. Now, let's say I showed you this and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I want single panel mode. I don't want all of this open. Well, then what you can do is go here and enable single panel mode. And now you can see if I open up lens blur, only lens blur is open. It automatically collapsed light. Same thing with optics. So how lens blur close and optics is available. It's kind of a way for you to really get focused on the tools that you're working on. Now, the nice thing is that we preserve the state of the subpanel. So because I have vignette expanded, even in single panel mode, this will still be expanded. But again, only one panel can be open at a time. This I'm not sure I'm a fan of, so I'm going to turn this off. I really do prefer having everything open, and then I just kind of use my muscle memory to go down the edit stack and get my edits done. Now, if we go back to preferences here, there are a few other ways that you can interact with the edit panel. The first is using this edit panel layout. So over here, you can see there's normal, but there's also this option for compact. So if you're a deviant and you want everything to be really tiny, you can click on compact and you'll see here when I click done, how everything looks super tiny here. I mean, I suppose if you are really, really limited on screen real estate, this might be good. But honestly, for me, this is way too tight. Like everything is way too tight together. So I really need to get back to normal for the edit panel layout. And then there's also your text size. So you can actually make the text size a little bit larger. Small is default. If I enable large, this will require me to quit Lightroom. So let's go ahead here. I'm going to click done. Let's take a moment. Actually, I'll open up the photo browser here so you can see, just look at the kind of text size over here. I'm going to quit Lightroom and then I'm going to relaunch it. And you can see how the type here is a little bit larger. It's like a slightly larger font. This is great, if you just like having a larger font. I've gotten used to the standard small font, so I'm going to go back here to preferences and then change this back to small. And again, what we need to do is click done and then cycle Lightroom. So we're going to quit and relaunch, and the font should be back to its normal default size, which it is. And again, if we press E, you'll see how, because we have auto panel tracking, it closes the photo drawer and it opens up the edit stack. Now, I know that Lightroom has a bunch of editing tools, and depending on how you have Lightroom configured, you might have forgotten that there are some really convenient quality of life features that can help kind of refresh what a tool does. If you go to preferences over here and you go to interface again, there's this option for enable animated hover tips. So when I click on this and I click done, if I hover over one of these sliders here, you can now see that we get this really sweet animation and it explains what that slider does. So again, if you hover over these, it just helps you visualize what each of these things do. Now, I turn this off almost immediately just because I find it distracting when I am doing these videos. If I kind of leave my cursor here, that a pop-up will appear. So I turn that off. But I do recommend keeping it on if you're new to Lightroom or if you need a refresher of what Lightroom does. And if you want to learn even more about Lightroom, this icon here gets so overlooked. It's this little question icon. It's the help icon. So when you click on it, there is so much helpful information here, all of these different tutorials, as well as just getting started guides. Like, I highly recommend, if again, you're new to Lightroom, spend some time here. Even if you're not new, even if you're an intermediate or an advanced user, we have all these really fantastic tutorials and kind of getting started guides, as well as explanations for each of the individual tools and sliders in Lightroom, all right here from the single icon. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is, let's say there are certain things that you do to all of your raw files when you import them into Lightroom. Like for me, let me show you here. I'll open this image up, for example. Well, like I said, there are a few things that I like to do first. Like, I like to enable adaptive color for my raw files. I also like to enable HDR. Now, this might not look very good because my screen recording software doesn't capture HDR correctly, but I can tell you right now, this alligator looks phenomenal. Like, the light is just playing off of its scales. Another thing that I like to do generally is, under color calibration, I like to increase the blue primary saturation slider by about 15 as a starting point. And I like to go down here and enable lens corrections. So these are things that I generally do to all of my raw files. And as you can see, those required some manual steps, but there is a way to automate that when you import your raw files. So what I can do here first is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the presets browser here, and I'm going to click on this plus icon to create a new preset. I'm going to go to user presets here as the group, and I'm going to go to modified. So only the things that I changed are enabled, and I'm going to verify. So I want adaptive color enabled. I want HDR enabled. I want color calibration enabled, and I want lens correction enabled. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this raw defaults. And I'll just put the year 2025. Maybe this changes, or of course you can call this whatever you want, but I'm going to go ahead and click on save. So you can see there is that preset raw default 2025. Now, what I can do is I can go to preferences again. This time I'm going to go to import, and you can see there is this raw default section. And what I can do is I can click this drop down and I can set a preset. So I'm going to go to presets here. And then I'm going to go to the user presets category, and there's my preset, raw defaults 2025. Now, every time when I import a raw file into Lightroom, it'll apply this preset, which will enable all of those settings that I basically apply manually to all of my images. And so I hope this video kind of gets you to think a bit more of how you interact with Lightroom, because there are some really cool customization options and preferences that can make it kind of work the way you want it to work, and also how you choose to organize your photos. There are different ways to do that. Now, of course, this is just one of a ton of things to learn about Lightroom. I've got this course called Lightroom Everywhere, which will teach you everything you need to know about how to use Lightroom Desktop, as well as Lightroom Mobile and Lightroom Web. I'll leave a link to that below. Now, I've got this playlist here with a bunch of other Lightroom tutorials, so you can check that out. Or if you're feeling lucky and you want YouTube to choose for you, I've got this video here. If you found this video helpful, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Please be sure to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of all future videos. Thanks a lot, everyone.